Only he who has clear terms can command. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe on leadership. We find the truth of this very wise observation reflected in manifold aspects of modern life. Communication is key. If you, dear viewer, are likewise familiar with the flood of abbreviations in various industries, in my case management consulting, consultant speak, the state military, Bundeswehr speak, and PMC, private military contracting, with its borrowings from international military abbreviations, you have certainly already spent time either explaining and or asking for explanations of terminology yourself. Rarely, however, do communication problems have more immediately severe consequences than in the military, which is why, accompanying our contributions on the Russo-Ukrainian War, and in order to create foundations for our later business wargaming, business conflict simulation contributions, we will be providing various foundational concept explanations. Today, tactics and strategy. At this note, a short shout out to Digital Battlefield Tours, whose brilliant version on this just cannot be ignored, yet I need the regarding topics elaborated on for my own basic series. If you are interested in more this specific basics, make sure to check out this channel. Tactics and strategy are both concerned with the planning of military actions, but differ in their application. They are so-called levels of war, levels of warfare, which we will here translate as operational and conflict levels. Although conflict levels, and indeed the meanings of strategy and tactics, can sometimes overlap, they should never be used interchangeably with one another. The distinction between tactics and strategy is not a matter of pedantic terminology. These are important theoretical concepts upon which a shared understanding of war is built. They are a part of the language of military history. This episode of the meta-series Strategy and Tactics will explore these conflict levels, explaining the difference between two. Let us begin with the three main levels of war. Tactics and strategy at either end of the conflict level spectrum. Tactics is the smallest level and is concerned with winning a battle. The scope can range from a 10-man unit defending a trench to a division of over 10,000 men attacking a ridgeline. The tactical level is the sharp end of war where men and machines meet. The nature of combat, the equipment and organization they use, all belong to the tactical level. The tactical level produces winners and losers. A battle is won or lost, units suffer casualties, and ground is gained or lost. But the war goes on. Success at the tactical level means winning battles, even against great resistance, but it does not decide the outcome of the war. Strategy, by contrast, is the highest level of war. Strategy aims to win the war, not just the battle. The planning of strategy encompasses the entire nation, its alliances, population, and economy. Strategy is formulated by statesmen and the highest military commanders. Strategy determines essential military decisions, such as opening the fronts or prioritizing the navy over the army. It also encompasses political decisions that influence the war, such as industrial planning and conscription laws. Strategy encompasses the entire military, army, navy, and air force, as well as the war industry, procurement, and logistics. It thinks in continents and theaters of war, not in hills and units. To speak of a strategic hill is therefore incorrect. No hill was important enough to become a strategic objective. This leaves a large gap between tactics and strategy. If tactics means winning battles and strategy means winning the war, how then can we translate winning battles into winning the war? The decisive bridge connecting tactics and strategy is the operational level. This is the third main level of war. It lies between tactics and strategy. Operations are the realm of generals and large formations, from corps to armies to army groups, involving tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even millions of men. There are often joint efforts by army, navy, and air force, with each playing its role. For a better understanding, we will at this point permit ourselves a brief insert from Battle Plan, The Tactics of War by Warner Brothers Discovery, which is also featured in our contribution to what almost everyone seems to be overlooking regarding a possible invasion of Taiwan, which can be found on the Stratagems Defense and Security channel.
Breakout. Finally, the troops must move out of the beachhead and begin the next stage of the overall battle plan. It's critical to remember that assault from the sea is rarely a battle plan just in itself. It's intended to be part of a larger military campaign.
Logistics plays an important role in operations and often dictates the start time and reach of an operation. The goal of an operation is to convert tactical into strategic success. Tactical victories alone barely influence the outcome of the war, but linking these tactical victories at the right time and in the right place as an operation can have a great strategic effect. A key word for the operational level is decisive. For a military action to be decisive, it must influence the war at a strategic level. Tactical battles are rarely decisive, but operations can be. Examples of the scale of operations include the destruction of a large enemy force or the capture of a key area, such as an industrial region, such as the Ruhr, not that of your local small town, unless the entire supply chain of a new technological leap, comparable to what the atomic bomb was in its time, should happen to be centered there. To achieve such an objective, tactical victories are required, such as breaking through an enemy defensive zone, capturing an intact bridge, or repelling an enemy counterattack. But all these small tactical actions must serve the larger operational objective, and this operational objective must in turn serve a strategic objective in order to be decisive. Operations are massive investments of time and resources. The numbers involved can be enormous, from tens of thousands to millions of men, and the build-up can take months or even years. The failure of an operation, or the execution of a strategically non-decisive operation, can lose the war. For example, an operation that successfully destroys an enemy army is not decisive at the strategic level if the enemy can replace its losses, while you yourself cannot. If we win one more battle against the Romans, we are finished. Or, an operation that successfully captures a key area can become a strategic defeat if that area cannot be held and integrated into one's own efforts in the long term. These then are the three great levels of war: tactical, operational, and strategic. Strategy sets the objectives, provides the means, and establishes a general approach. Operations then take concrete military action to achieve these objectives with the available means, and finally, tactics implements these plans in armed clash with the enemy. Sublevels. These three great levels form the necessary foundation. They are the generally recognized levels of war. But it does not need to end here. There are a few further sublevels we can explore. Note, however, that these are less widely accepted and are more the subject of debate. First, there's the technical level, which lies below the tactical level. The technical level concerns itself with the capabilities of military equipment. Things such as the effective range of an artillery piece, the fuel consumption of a vehicle, or the bomb load of an aircraft are examples of the technical level. Improvements here can be marginal, such as a somewhat faster tank, or revolutionary, such as jet fighters in the age of propeller aircraft. Technical capabilities influence the tactics with which the equipment is used, and can even redictate operational employment. Conversely, strategy can also influence the type of equipment used by an army. A nation with overseas ambitions will have a greater interest in its navy and equipment that can be shipped and maintained across continents, while a landlocked nation with a defensive posture will likely invest in fortifications. The level is reached by subdividing the tactical level into minor and major tactics. Minor tactics, training, SOPs, are the level at which the smallest units fight. They often take the form of standard procedures or techniques conveyed through repeated drilling. Examples of minor tactics include fighter aircraft flying V formation, an infantry platoon reacting to contact, or an artillery unit conducting a counter-battery mission. Minor tactics can be seen as a bridge between the technical and tactical levels, prescribing the tactical employment of technical resources. As a personal aside, I remain keenly interested in the comparative performance of Russian versus NATO tank platoons. The former consist of only 3 vehicles, whereas in the West operations are generally conducted with 2 teams of 2 main battle tanks each. Major tactics, by contrast, are the realm of larger tactical units, such as brigades and divisions, fighting within an operational framework. Major tactics follow general principles such as achieving surprise and employing combined arms, but they are not rigid techniques or procedures. They can vary greatly depending on the available forces, the terrain, and the skill of the commander. Examples would include the earlier Kampfgruppen of the Wehrmacht, as well as various contemporary US formations, Brigade Tactical Group, as well as French Groups Tactiques Inter-Arms, literally cross-branch tactical formations, or simply the well-known English language Joint Task Forces, as well as the Russian Tactical Battalion Groups, which yet since 2022 appear to be hastily discarded in favor of a return to divisional organization in order to once again gain greater security and combat support and a broader range of operational options. The video on the Russian order of battle at the start of the war by Colonel Reisner, head of the development department of the Austrian Theresian Military Academy, is warmly recommended in this context. Next, between the operational and strategic levels, there's the campaign. A campaign is a series of operations connected in time and space that serve the same strategic objective. A campaign can last months and encompass multiple land, sea, and air operations within a region. Finally, the strategic level can be subdivided into military strategy and political strategy. Military strategy aims to win the war with the available military means. This is the realm of the highest military commanders, who translate the nation's political objectives into military action. When and where an invasion is to be launched is an example of military strategy. But, where this right of input is granted, also things such as procurement, whether battleships or aircraft carriers are to be built with the available budget. Political strategy concerns itself with the nation's long-term objectives, why the war is being fought, and what can be gained from it. Political strategy encompasses political decision-making at the highest level, mobilizing the nation's resources for the war effort. Military alliances, industrial planning, and conscription laws belong to this domain. In a more practical sense, political strategy can be regarded as setting the objectives and providing the means for military strategy. Note, this will become important again on numerous occasions in coming episodes, as well as for understanding military disasters of the modern era. All these various levels are best illustrated by means of an example. Let us take the Allied invasion of Normandy in 1944. An example of the political strategic level is the Tehran Conference of late 1943. Here, the great Allied powers agreed to open a second front against Germany on the Western Front in order to reduce the pressure on the Soviet Union in the East. An example of the military strategic level is the indirect approach pursued by the Western Allies toward Fortress Europe. Rather than confronting Germany directly on the European continent as early as possible, the Allies first exerted pressure on the periphery. German troops were defeated in North Africa, followed by the invasion and capitulation of Germany's ally Italy. By having Allied naval forces combat the German U-boat threat and Allied air forces weaken the German Luftwaffe through factory bombing and aerial combat, Allied military strategy had cleared the seas, secured the skies, pinned German troops in Italy, and stretched them out along the Atlantic Wall, not to mention the enormous German commitment on the Eastern Front. The next level is the Normandy campaign. This encompassed all air, land and sea operations, conducted with the strategic objective of establishing a bridgehead on the European continent to enable further advance into Germany. The Normandy campaign lasted almost 3 months, from the first landings on June 6th to the crossing of the Seine at the end of August. An example of the operational level is Operation Neptune, namely the landings of 6th of June, with the objective of establishing the first bridgehead on the coast of Normandy. This operation encompassed coordinated beach landings by multiple divisions, supported by naval bombardments, airborne landings, airstrikes, and sabotage actions by the French resistance to cut off German reinforcements. Deception measures such as Operation Fortitude itself, which created entire ghost divisions by means of decoys and false radio traffic, suggesting a landing at the point expected by the Germans, the French city of Calais, were intended to conceal the true scale of the invasion, and a massive logistical effort was undertaken to supply the invasion forces. The landing of the 1st US Infantry Division at Omaha Beach falls within the domain of major tactics, Doctrine. The division of units into assault waves, assigning them beach sections, establishing boundary lines with timetables, and coordinating fire support with naval and air forces are all areas of major tactics. Minor tactics are then the small units that had to fight their way to and from the beach. Junior officers bringing men together in small combat groups, covering groups suppressing enemy positions, and covering engineer units blowing gaps in barbed wire, clearing bunkers, are all examples of minor tactics. Finally, the employment of duplex drive tanks during the landings is an example of the technical level. These were a technical innovation in which a Byron's device was intended to enable the tank to swim and thereby conduct an amphibious landing. As a conclusion to this contribution, we would like to encourage you going forward to make abstract and creative use of the conflict levels and the accompanying planning details. After all, this is a theoretical concept that serves to deepen our understanding of conflicts and not to force them into rigid definitions. To illustrate this closing remark, consider the following image. It shows an M4 Sherman tank, an American symbol of the Second World War. The first level that comes to mind when looking at an image like this is the technical. We are looking at military equipment, so specifications such as armor thickness, gun caliber, and maximum speeds are relevant. Yet the rest of the image tells a different level of war. Slogans in Cyrillic script adorn the side of the tank, and the crew is dressed in red army uniforms. With this observation, we have made a leap from the smallest level, the technical, to the largest, the political strategic. What we see here is alliance politics in action. American tanks were once shipped halfway around the world to be operated by Soviet crews against a common enemy. In a single image, we thus see both the smallest and largest conflict level. Just as one should always be aware of the differences between the levels, one should also try to move between them in one's thinking. At the technical level, the Sherman was poorly armed and armored, but it was also simple to produce, transport and maintain. These properties held it back at a tactical level, where it had a poor reputation, but at a strategic level, where it equipped many American allies on various continents, Drowning the Axis in a veritable flood of production, it could shine in turn. Often, performance at one level can be explained by examining the levels above and below it. This was one of the first episodes of our Foundation series. If you have stayed with us at this point, we thank you very much and ask that, should the video have been to your liking, let us know by means of a like or, for example, suggestions for follow-ups in the comments. If furthermore topics as, for example, geopolitical, strategic and security analysis would be of your interest, please check out Strategem's Defense and Security. We thank you for your attention. This concludes my elaborations.